So what we're doing is just giving a really kind of quick snapshot of our work. So as part of the DEMCOM Fellowship, I am working with Caribbean old adults in the Nottinghamshire on why is it needed. There's widely acknowledged that there's a kind of reluctance to use the mainstream dementia services, and that there are lots of, I think, cultural and probably quite complex reasons why Caribbean old adults might not want to use mainstream mental health services. And I think culturally, it's really important to acknowledge that talking about mental health, including dementia, might not be so common. So it's kind of easy, I guess, to just kind of impose a Western standard of like, you should come to a dementia diagnostic services. But if people are naturally don't intrude, they feel quite intrusive talking about the dementia, or somebody might be developing cognitive impairment, then we really need to respect that culture and work with it. And quite a lot of community members have told me quite explicitly they haven't had lots of previous positive experience with healthcare professionals, experienced racism, and also they're kind of saying, why should I take part in research? And we already touched on the importance of like really kind of building that trusting relationship, and that has been really central to our work. But it's important, while respecting the cultural differences, it's really important to start talking about dementia more openly, because Caribbean older adults do have a higher risk for high blood pressure, diabetes. So it's kind of trying to work with how can we actually make it slightly more normal and a more open conversation. So our method is we appointed a long-term co-researcher, Bettina. She's absolutely amazing, 70-something, originally came from Jamaica. She calls herself a daughter of a Windrush generation. So what we've been doing is we've been kind of giving talks at already existing local Caribbean elders clubs. So not necessarily everybody with dementia, but basically it's a community older adults groups for Caribbean older adults. So Bettina and I go in, and we just provide a face-to-face informal chat and the Q&A sessions around the dementia. And it's really, for me as a researcher, it's very much trying to understand what kind of support services would you be willing to use if you've had really bad experience with dementia care professionals before. What can we do better? And what I'm learning quite quickly, it's not just about kind of mental health is not widely talked in certain community members, but it's very much also, I think this is a Windrush generation elders group, so they came to the country to work after the Second World War. So basically they're telling me all the people who came to work, they really had to work hard to establish their independence, psychologically, physically, financially. So many people, especially like men, they don't really want to be seen as weak or dependent. So it's not just about kind of cultural differences in terms of mental health, but it's really respecting how they had to work, had really to establish themselves to get to where they are. So it's actually talking about mental health, what's maybe seen as a mental health weaknesses is really, really challenging. So we really have to work with that. So some of the challenges, the local Alzheimer's Society says we are open to everybody, which is great, a kind of inclusive approach. However, our Caribbean community members say, why should we use services that don't really meet our cultural needs? So they don't provide Caribbean food, or they don't provide Caribbean-based activities. So yeah, just say like, why should we use that? But I think our small informal talk in the communities seem to be making a small but important difference. Marcia, another collaborator, just fed back to me a few weeks ago that because of our talk, they actually had a couple of community members like seeking dementia help now. So slowly people are starting to think, yeah, actually it might be important. So at the moment, the long-term co-researching and really working with community members are really crucial. And that's only way forward for me as a researcher. And also we kind of be doing more skill sharing. So we got 2 people trained in cognitive stimulation therapy while developing Caribbean specific resources. So again, just kind of trying to share what we know from our current research, but also making it Caribbean specific so that people can actually relate to. But it requires a long-term collaborative work. And it's really about kind of supporting what's already there in the local services. And for me, the challenge, I think, as a university researcher, is how do you turn that into kind of meaningful research project. But also, Tom talked about that kind of sustainability beyond just research project, and that's really kind of trying to maintain that long-term core researching is really essential. Thank you.